Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Bro Man Clash right here, and tonight I'm gonna talk about a topic that I mean everybody has been through, even if they've been through silence. Because even in silence, you can still hear a sound. Be it the sound of your own feet, your own footsteps, or the sound of you rushing through to get somewhere, or the sound of your heart breathing. But not in that sense. But I want to talk about lyrical content and beat. And some of you may ask, Clash, this is a bit unusual. You're not talking about race. You're not talking about, you know, you're not talking about what's going on out there in the world. Like, what's going on? And the reason why I want to talk about lyrical content is because, it's still going to deal with that topic, but it's going to be much more settled. But at the same time, the lyrics and beats, they do go hand in hand, but yet they are separate entities in their own right. Like when it comes right down to the topic of, topic of lyrical content, people tend to focus on the beat more and then let the lyrics hit them. But if you have like a very good ear and you actually pay attention, you realize like, wait a minute, what the hell are they talking about? Why are they talking about, killing blacks? You know that song, I hate this song. I'm in love with the go. I hate that fucking song, man. Honestly, put put on some, put on Megadeth or something. Like put on some metal, put on some Corn, put on there was one part of that song. It was from Corn. I forgot the name of the song, but there's so many of them. But the lyrical content of I'm in love with the, like I hear that every single time, just pounding you in the head, and I realize and I know what the hell they're talking about. They're talking about black black men committing crimes as if it was nothing more than just a fucking daily activity. Like black men are built for this shit. Black people in general are built for this shit. And lyrical content reveals like, wait a minute, what's willing to sell and what's not. If you realize like utter nonsense, even if you speak gibberish, but if you put it to a beat, people will think like, oh yeah, that's real cool right there. That's real nice. I like what the hell they're saying, even though they're not saying shit. But when you listen to, I remember there was this one song. It was called "Mr. Mister" by the Fugees. He said, "Mister, Mister, can you spare me $1 so I can get something to eat?" Hell no, motherfucker, you ain't getting no money from me. 'Cause every time I give you $1, you go get fucked up with them fucked up drugs. And you say you are drug free, drug free, motherfucker. You ain't drug free. And I listened to that song when I was a younger, man, and I knew it was talking about, drug problems and how the way addicts will try to even beg you for even the smallest of change. And the latter part of the song talks about, how the way the drug addict will even ask you for a quarter so they could have their high. But then they said, hell no, motherfucker. What can a quarter do? Nothing, motherfucker. You are just fucked up with them fucked up drugs. I understand, like, that's a lot of cursing in just a few lyrics. But compared to that to now, it's relatively tame and the message is relatively clear. And if you think about it, historically of what happened, especially, there are drug addicts every different culture. I mean, sometimes you could be an addict even of non recreational substances or non paraphernalia. No, not paraphernalia. Non drug paraphernalia such as coffee, sugar, and just to name those two as an example. And then some people are actually have pica syndrome, where they, or they have like a strange appetite for inedible objects. But off of that tangent right there, that lyrical content, that lyrical, graph right there, as I call it, a lyrical graph. You know what it was talking about? It was actually talking about what happened in, the streets of, prominently black neighborhoods or any other neighborhoods, but mostly in the prominent black neighborhoods where, the whole crack epidemic happened. People call it the crack epidemic, the war, the so-called war on drugs, which was the war on us. And then, unemployment came in heavily, and, people were desperate for an escape. So, you know what they did? They decided to say, "Hey, my little friend, what you doing? Yeah, bring that pipe over here. Let me get it here." And then it's just like, whoa, what are you doing that for? You're killing your brain cells and all that shit, man. You want to know, like, why? Like, what's this gonna do? What are smoking drugs gonna do? It's not gonna benefit our community. It's not gonna help our community. It's in fact gonna destroy it. See, the whole proverbial Mister thing, I think it was like an interlude or something, but it was a powerful interlude. But because it was related to the fact that drug addicts, you have to tell them like no, no. Addicts in general, you gotta tell them no and just be like, wait a minute, no, 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 not that. We're not doing that. How we went from the Fugees, Kumo D, and Kumo D had like one lyric where he was talking about, you going over to fight overseas to fight the people that you didn't even meet or know before. And Dougie first talking about, going back to Africa, yeah, in the middle of December, but it feels like June. Is that going way back home and meeting people that look just like me that I see back at my home. How we went from, Dougie Fresh, Kumo D, KRS-One, all these other people, all these prominent acts, not even acts, prominent MCs and prominent groups to, talking about drugs, hoes, money. You know where it started in? It's, don't get me wrong, I love the West Coast. The beats are right there, the reality is right there. Ice-T, even though he was born in New Jersey, but it's the same thing with Tupac. He was born, if I'm correct, he was born in East Harlem, but yeah, he repped the West. They both represent the West because of their experiences. The way I see it, man, you can be born from some other place. You can be born in one place, but yet you can relate to many things because you had much more experience in a certain place. And Ice-T was talking about, not the boys in the hood. Don't think of NWA now. He was talking about, talking about drug contacts. Even though he was never into that kind of thing, but he was like, he talked about these things because he saw it. He witnessed this, and and he talked about how the way. And there was even one song. It was called "I Must Stand by," talking about it. And he was talking about how the way, being a black man is hard in America, and how the way, being a black man is hard in general. Being a black person is hard in general, especially when you had, especially when you're growing up and you see people making tons of money. You see them with knots, carrying around with rolls, folds, doing that, and then you had, people who like much older than you telling you like, no, go get out of here, man. Don't get up in here, man, because you want to know why? It's not meant for you. And he talked about one thing I will never forget is that I teach the young ones that this is not the place to go to, and it's hellish habitat of shanks and steel. I forgot how the lyrics go, but the way the way he described the prison system and how the way, the prisoners wrote letters, and he said you got much love in the penitentiary because he said you were the ones that made it out. And to look at that, to look at the, certain lyrical content, And you know how the way lyrical content back then, even though I can't really recite the exact words, but the subject matter was right there, and the beat was somber and gloomy. And you know, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, when I listened to that song, I actually wanted to cry because he said, you know, we used to be, he said we used to march 1 million strong, and then you know talked about how the way back then he didn't care much about his history, and how the way he was talking about how the way his history didn't matter anymore because of the fact that it was much more of like, wait a minute, why would I want to be associated with those people? Those are the old days. And he said my head was twisted during my hustling days, and because I got a baby son to raise, and it was just like, yo, that was beautiful because he realized like the very significance of his own, not only his own Afrocentricity, but he realized the importance of you know his history in general. See, I told you is you know what I was talking about, you know, black topics. It's gonna segue into lyrics as well because you know that whole song he was talking about you know the civil rights era. He talked about prominent leaders, even though he didn't go by name, but he talked about them, and he talked about how the way you know we have like a very beautiful history, and I can identify with that, not because not because of the fact that I didn't think much of the you know the old days. I never thought much about the civil rights era. It's not because of that. It was because I was just like, man, because I could literally see it with some of my own peers. Like they don't care about their history, yet you know history is repeating right in front of them, and yet they want to know why are we not doing anything about it? And you know the whole Kubler Ross model of grief. Sure, we were in denial of the problem for like a few years. We thought it just solved itself. Then we get angry at our generation, and then now we're bargaining for other people to come solve us. They'll come save us and solve our own problems. Like, what's the point? And then what next? We're going to get depressed because we lost so many people. I think we're entering that stage, and then we got to accept the fact that we got to do something. It's like a combination of that. But you know, I always go off on tangents and all that stuff. But anyways, when you look at the lyrical content as opposed to listening to the beat, sure the beat may be, you know, it's much louder, it's much more, you know, rhythmic inclined. But if you listen to the lyrics and you listen to what they're saying, you realize like, wait a minute. It sounds as if they're not saying it sounds as if they're not talking about it with like, you know, full emotion. And you can feel that. Even when you see people just, you know, mindlessly singing it. And then it sounds as if it's like a zombie chant. And then, you know, listening to that and then listening to back then, you feel the emotion. You understand the emotion. You understand the impact. You know, especially with the lyrics. The beat was just, to me, just an afterthought. And then you listen to the lyrics, you gotta identify the lyrics because you know what it's like to be in that situation in the first place. And to make things, you know, even crazier, if you listen to metal, some of the stuff, like, I remember listening to Rage, and it's a German metal band. You know, I love their music, honestly. But one of their songs, believe it or not, it's called No Fear. And despite, you know, the whole loud head banging escalate, if you really look up the lyrics and listen to them, he said, "In the cemetery after midnight, see the dancing spirits in the moonlight. Open your mind, let the world in. You can see there is beauty and there's no sleep. Madness, you think your quest will end." But then they go on to say this, "No more lies." He said, but then there was one lyric I will never forget. He said, this one guy's song, and this is what they said. He said, "All the military, every weapon, only shows how much we are afraid of being overrun, being submitted." And then, you know, listening to that lyric, it talked about, you know, how the way there should be no fear. But then there was one lyric, I know I'm talking about like a lot of lyrics, but just like I talked about two lyric graphs and how the way, one talked about the beauty of nature and how the way nature itself is very calm and tranquil and even imaginative, almost as if, nature is alive itself. That's from Rage. And then, go on to talk about how the way people are afraid to be conquered, or afraid to be, or matter of fact, not afraid, but they are paranoid of the fact that even their own family members might do them. And you know what the sad part is? Some family members will actually do you in dirty because of like what? Because of pride, because of disregard for life, even a disregard for their own sake of humanity. And it's real funny when it comes right down to that, and you realize like, wait a minute, what do all these lyrics have to do with? And I know some of you are asking like, hey Clash, hey bro man, what does all this got to do with lyrics and beats? How does all this deal with this? I'm going to get to that eventually. But when it comes right down to lyrics and how the way when I was going off on Rage, they were talking about something that was very deep. They were talking about how the way in human nature and nowadays we are afraid of almost every little thing because we don't even know what it's like to be ourselves. We don't even know what it's like to be human. We are essentially a paranoid being. We are essentially paranoid beings who don't even know how to actually just have rational thought. Not all of us, but the majority of us. Because sometimes you have people who put on like this false bravado, yet they are fragile inside. And you want to know what the real sad part is? When I see that, I'm just like, wait a minute, what's going on? Before, I used to be like that. I'm not even going to lie to you. And, some people could pick on that. Even one guy mentioned that, after I left high school, he said, you seem a lot happier. I'm just like, really, I do? And then, honestly, he was right, because I was a lot happier than I appeared. Even though I didn't realize it. I didn't realize why, but that was like my first step into like experiencing real life and listening to, and then this all ties into music in general, because music is very important, because just like art is like the physical expression, the physical emotional expression of the person and soul. Music is like the spiritual and the mental side of it, because music, you have to think on what note comes down and what lyric goes down, and how the way it can tie in with other people, because nobody wants to talk about topics nowadays, current topics, especially war, genocide, and everything going on, the death of prominent leaders, or either they are being purposely neglected, like Mumia Abu Jamal, or they passed on, like Dr. Ben, may his soul rest in peace, because lovely man, he did a lot of things. And he had Nikola Tesla, who dealt with using electrical energy sources, basically renewable sources as energy. But yet nobody really talks about them, because either because history books don't want to talk about it, or they're purposely being withheld. And the real funny part, when it comes right down to how does all this tie into lyrics, if you really think about it, because we listen to the lyrics, we listen to the words, we not only nod ahead to the beat. What did Tupac once say? He said, "Don't just nod your head to the beat, listen to the lyrics. Hold us accountable to the lyrics." That's what he said before. Remember that. And if Tupac said that, and I remember something from Head P, Head Planet Earth, and it was a song called RTO, and Big B said this, and I'll never forget it. He said, "Y'all arguing saying it's only music, but look what happens when you start to abuse it. You can even accuse it of being a murder. I wish Biggie and Pac would have thought of that earlier. Why all the good ones gotta go away? Now all these punks thinking got something to say. Our society gets thrown out of the window like a Hollywood out of a to get thrown out the window like a out of a Hollywood limo, like a fucking rock demo. All these rebels or renegades are disappeared, and all I see is faggots and queers. You ain't tough, so stop with the smoke and mirrors. You're officially dealing with a different breed. A lion in this jungle ready to feed. It's time for the world to get up to speed. You can try, but you never fit in the shoes. And then I understand some of you may say, like, but Clash, don't say faggot. That's real wrong. But if you understand what they were basically saying, and Big B in that one, in those few bars express what's going on with lyrics today and what is really going on. And this was back in 2007, I think. Insomnia from Head B. You gotta listen to that. Well, just mainly listen to RTO. Don't know what RTO stands for. It could be like reminisce the old or remember the originals or something like that. Who knows? But when I listen to when I listen to those few bars, one of my arguments say it's only music, but look what happens when you start to abuse it. And if you look at how nowadays people look at music and they think like, oh, it's just simple beat and that's it. And then go on back to what Tupac said about lyrics. See, hold us accountable for the lyrics. Don't just talk about oh, the beat was fire, the beat was hot. No, don't talk about like that. Listen to the lyrics and hold us accountable to the lyrics. Tupac just did, whole gangster thing as like a ploy. That's just me. He did that whole thing just for show. Just to make sure the record executives, just be like, yeah, we could use him. But he wasn't stupid. Because, he talked about, dear mama, paying respects to his mother. And then, talking about, Brenda had a baby, talking about teenage pregnancy in, the black community. And how the way there are so many deadbeat fathers out there. And how the way, the mother essentially holds up the roots. And holds up the, the roof of the house. And how the way he grew up in a fatherless environment. And, that's real sad, too, because when I look at, mom, dad's generation, as much as I look at their generation and just say, like, wow, they are just a bunch of dead-off failures. But they really did experience a lot. I mean, not many of them knew their dads as much. Some of their dads were killed right in front of their faces. Some of them went off to war. Some of them were strung out on drugs. Some, went out on that crap. And, mothers went through the same thing, too. Some of them were crack addicts, And LA, strawberries, New York, skeezers, And, he talked about problems that people tend to gloss over. They remember, how do you want it? There was even one lyric he said, they're saying, you's a motherfucker, instead of trying to help you destroy a brother. He said, instead of trying to help a nigga, you destroy a brother. I thought that was really strong. Because I think that woman was also someone like a feminist, I think. He didn't agree with what she said, and then just immediately just made that one quip about her, and then did that. But back onto Head PE and their lyrics. He said one of my arguments say it's only music, but look what happens when you start to abuse it. You could even accuse it of being a murder. I wish Biggie and Pac would have thought of that earlier. See, when they said, you could even accuse it of being a murder, and I wish Biggie and Pac would have thought of that earlier. If you think about it, what they were talking about in those set of bars, they were talking about how the way music itself was, was being used for all the wrong purposes, to the point like the original intent of music and lyrics, aside from beat, because the beat will never change, but lyrics and all that stuff changed, and it start killing the minds instead of empowering them. And just like KRS-One once said, if hip-hop has the power to corrupt minds, then it also has the power to uplift them. Hey, and if you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. And you want to know what the real funny part is? When they mention, Biggie and Pac, because, Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls, may he rest in peace, and Tupac, may he rest in peace. May both of them rest in peace. But you know what they were talking about? They were talking about street life and how hard it is and how you can make it. But at the same time, there's also a price to pay. And the almost upsetting part is the fact that when they realized what the hell was going on, they were executed. Well, not like head cut off and all that crap. They were in place of, they were shot down, and it's not because of some hater or some random fan. It was because that whole thing was orchestrated. Because as soon as they realized, wait a minute, this whole thing's a setup, and try to do away with it from the inside. And I respected what the hell they were trying to do. They were not only rebellious, but they also knew what the hell was going on. And Pimp C too. I really need to listen to some Pimp C, believe it or not. His lyrical content. I know Pimp C is not like a music genre in that kind of way, sense of form. But I'm just saying that just for convenience sake. But anyways, let's get on back to the whole lyrical thing. You see, you can. Why all the good ones gotta go away? Now all these punks think they got something to say. Our society is thrown out the window like a Hollywood limo. Out of a Hollywood limo, like a fucking rock demo. Basically, those set of bars were talking about how, when you listen to the lyrics and you see how the way the lyrics in connection to the actions, you realize their morals, their mindsets, everything that made previously people human are now gone, are now thrown away, are now not obsolete, but just chose to be ignored. And that gets real sad. And then you realize, wait a minute, music, art, video games, and then ourselves. Remember, people still grow up until, for me, the age that they stop growing up and they realize they fully matured is at least at age 45 or 46. Because, even when you are grown, even when you think, oh yeah, I'm grown because I'm this age, oh, I'm grown because I'm that age. Yeah, right. The only time you realize you're a grown-up is when you realize, wait a minute, I just realized what the hell I'm doing. Some kids realize it and then they become grown-ups, but they are much more mature. They are even much more mature than the adults that claim that, oh yeah, I'm a grown-up as well. No, you're not. You're just a little kid in a grown-up body. And how does this tie in with the bars that Big B was talking about? It talked about morals. It talked about integrity. It talked about how the way things used to be much more stable. Even if the environment was unstable, the minds of the people were stable. And then going to talk about how the way society's morals, those people tend to focus on money more than they focused on the content. They were focusing on the people. They were focusing on those that actually look up to them and listen to their content. That's what he was talking about. And then going to talk about and then he talked about all the rebels and renegades have disappeared. Now all I see is faggots and queers. You ain't tough, so stop with the smoke and mirrors. You're officially dealing with a different breed. I lie in this jungle ready to feed. It's time for this world to get up to speed. You can try, but you never could put on the shoes. Now, those bars are specifically talking about how life is really tough. But yeah, you got people that are posing talking about, yo, I got all these chains. I got, the Henny. I got, the Ciroc. I got all that crap. I call Ciroc crack because it's too phonetically similar to crack. That's a bit of a joke. I know Ciroc is something different, but if you rearrange the letters of it, you get crack. Enough of that. But when they were talking about, life of the old, and how the way they were talking about how all these people, and some people might get aggro at me because you don't do that, man. Don't say faggot, don't say nigga, and all that crap. I understand, but honestly, these are lyrics from from you know from 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 songs, but yet they spoke volumes even with those terms because it talked about issues, and to going back onto what was going on with Big B, and he talked about in this song with Happy and Highway. They were not only talking about how the way these posers are talking about, yo, we got all these chains, we got the Patron, we got all this, we're living good, and you sitting poor. They're just bragging. Yeah, they were talking about, you know what, man, you don't want us to rise up because honestly, if the people rise up, because especially especially my generation, because like he said, you're officially dealing with a different breed. A lion in this jungle ready to feed, and lions, either lionesses, lions, any type of feral feline. When they see the prey that they want, they will get it. And if they have to hunt it all night, they will. And basically, what he's talking about, that this generation or any other person that follows that criteria is much more goal oriented. And that's beautiful. But, when it came right down to it, people would tend to talk about, like, wait a minute, what does all of this got to do with lyrics, and what does all this got to do with anything? How does this all deal with beat? Because beat is just like, that's just a sound, but the lyrical content, that's what makes the song. Because you can listen to the instrumental, you can be like, yeah, yeah, and you can make up your own lyrics to them too, and the lyrics give the song life. If you notice, like, when you realize that the song is living because of the lyrics, you will realize that, wait a minute, the whole thing about songs, the beat is nothing without the lyrics. The lyrics make the song come up and give it a voice. And without that voice, it's just essentially an echo that repeats itself. It doesn't have a distinction. And how does all this tie in with social problems? And how does, lyrics and beats, music in general, affect, the human psyche and the mind? Because as human beings, we are much more identifiable. We want to be understood. We want to be, we want to be liked. We want to be, out there. We want to be individuals. But how can we be individuals if we're practicing what makes other people slaves or the same in an oppressive society? And here's a question I want to pose on to you two. If you want to answer it, go ahead. If you don't, then don't. What are your take on lyrics, honestly? And do you encompass your life around lyrics, or do lyrics encompass themselves around your life? And if you remember something from, yeah, those are, the question I really want you to answer is this: do you encompass your life around lyrics, or do the lyrics encompass your life? There's a difference. That's the question I want you to answer. And all of this ties into what I'm going to talk about. And that is KRS-One's Gospel of Hip Hop. And he said that, in 100 and so years, hip hop will be a religion. And you want to know what the irony is? I think the year that he made that, he didn't have to do anything because the religion or the way of life just encompassed itself. I mean, the way we use lyrics, the way we use sayings, the way we use, various types of moods, and the way we vocabulate, how we vocalize our expression, through words, through rhyme, and through rhyme and reason, you realize, like, wait a minute. KRS-One was talking about something that already came to pass. When he said in 100 years, hip-hop will be a religion, when in fact, it already became a religion. What are the odds? And I love KRS, man. Not in that sense, but, you know, out of respect. And with that, YouTube, this is Broman Class signing out, saying I won at one. Hope you have a great time, great morning, or great evening, depending on which part of the world you're in. Hope you have a great one. Later.